Hi everyone, it's me. I have officially celebrated 7 years as a foreigner living in England. Wow, what an adventure. So I've got a cuppa. I know, who is she? I thought we would sit down and have a chat about my genuine reaction to living in England for the last 7 years. So without further ado, let's go. So first off, it sucks. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. I'm just kidding. So honestly, living in England for the last 7 years has been both the most rewarding experience of my life and also the most difficult. And it has been a real learning experience that both of those two opposites can exist at the same time. Exciting and boring, it can be filled with adventures and also many naps. I'll be completely honest, I didn't realize my anniversary happened until it was already over. So I moved to the UK at the end of November. Yeah, that was eye-opening. So I completely lost track of time. Work and life has just kind of been like that lately. And I looked at the calendar and I was like, oh, I just had my 7-year anniversary. And to be completely honest, between you and me, I did not think that we would ever be here. I think back to year 1 in England. What a long time ago that was. In the before times, year 1. I struggled, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen. It was rough. It was tough, and I honestly hated it. I thought there's no way. There's just no way that I can do this. I just remember thinking, I've made a huge mistake. And I don't know if you've ever found yourself in that situation. Maybe it's not, you moved abroad. Maybe it's in something else, whether it's family, friends, relationship, work, personal, whatever. You make a big decision and then you sit with it afterwards and you think, I have made a huge mistake. It really felt like that at the beginning. And I just, of course I'd never done it before. And so I thought, wow, if I feel like this, then I've obviously made a mistake. And with that, it's really embarrassing because of course I had made a big thing, right? Like, I'm moving abroad. Yay, look at me. I quit my job that I really liked. I sold my car that I really liked. I left my family. I left everything I knew to move to the UK. And then I got here and I thought, oh God, what have I done? And I always want to be really upfront about that because if any expats are watching, I don't ever want you to think that my life is perfect. And if you move abroad and you have doubts, then you're wrong, you've done something wrong, because I have absolutely been in your shoes. Anywho, I'm getting off topic. So really struggled. Very, very hard, difficult, stressful, anxious. Just not having a good time. And then very slowly, I remember specifically that it was one day, probably in late spring at this point, 2016, I guess. And I was walking home from the bus stop after work, a good day at work, walking home. And I was thinking about what I would make for dinner and maybe what I'd watch on TV that night. And it just felt normal. Of course, I still had the regular everyday stresses that comes with being alive, but I wasn't stressed specifically about the foreigner stuff. I just felt like I was coming home from work, going home, having dinner, watching a spot of telly, and it was just normal. And I think from that point on, I slowly started to feel like this is home. And that's a separate topic in itself, because now I find, and maybe other expats watching or foreigners or whatever, I have now gotten to a point where I am a hybrid. And part of this 7-year experience I had, and kind of still ongoing, a bit of an identity crisis. I don't know when it started and when I started to notice it, but when I started to get really settled in England, I realized that I am no longer Canadian. I'm not anymore. I've seen too many things to just be Canadian, but I'm also not English or British, and I never will be, And so that comes with like a real identity crisis, existential crisis. Like, who am I? What am I? I'm kind of like this thing in the middle. But I've learned that rather than freak out about it, because I've already done that and it wasn't very helpful, I sort of look at it in a more positive way, right? Like, I am so privileged to have lived in England for as long as I have, and I hope to continue living here. And it is quite a privilege to have this kind of hybrid identity. So I don't want to stress about it too much. I kind of want to embrace it because I do feel very much at home here, which I didn't think would ever happen. And I didn't think I'd like tea that much either. And yet here we are. One of the things that's maybe a little bit different about my experience is that so much of it is on YouTube. So much of it is documented on YouTube while I've gone through those struggles and I've gone through those changes and I've learned about British culture. I've really documented all of it. This channel, in essence, was going to be like my digital journal. You know, it's like a time capsule. It's like a photo album. It's like, you know, a representation of my life as a foreigner in the UK, how I've changed and how I've discovered British culture, which I think is really interesting. And I'm really glad that I'm here and I'm really glad that I did this, even though it's kind of horrible to go back and watch old videos because I just think it's really cringy. It's kind of like listening to yourself on an answering machine or like a voicemail. It's just horrible. But I can go back and I can watch myself. And sometimes it almost is like a different person. I have changed so much in the last 7 years. I look back on some of the old videos of that, you know, little girl struggling. Maybe it doesn't come through in the videos, but I know that I was. And I think to myself now, and no, my life is not perfect. Absolutely not. And it never will be. But I am in such a better place emotionally and personally and spiritually. I'm not spiritual. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just in a better place. And it's not perfect, but it is a much more positive space. Now, a couple of like rapid fire things that come to mind. How about we do a couple of like pros and cons, rapid fire reaction to my life in England. Something I absolutely love about my life here is that I am surrounded by character. And I mean this in terms of architecture and history. And yeah, the streets are a bit wonky and that can be difficult to drive. Or the houses, I mean, I've lived in a house that was leaning. There's pros to that, but there is just or there's cons to that, whatever. There's just so much character. There's history everywhere. I go to the post office and it's in a historical building. Everything has its own character and shape, and things are a bit wonky, but they're unique. And it's something that I really lack in Canada. It's something I really notice in Canada, in that stuff is built in a way that's very convenient, but it doesn't have any of the character. Another thing I love are walkable towns. I've talked about this, especially on live streams on Twitch. I live stream on Twitch. I love the fact that there are walkable towns here in the UK. I can walk to the shops, which never ever is gonna happen in Canada. And there's been so many times where I've gone to like make dinner and I've realized that I've forgotten something, and so I just pop out to the shop. Incredible. Something that I really hate: the low light in winter. So where I'm from in Southern Ontario, we're kind of like level, I believe it's Florence, or perhaps like Tuscany, like the Tuscany region is sort of the same, what's that one? Latitude or longitude? Don't ask me. I struggle here in England, even in the south, you know, pretty south. The low light of winter is tough, and I definitely noticed that, and I definitely kind of like slump down into like a little bit of a seasonal depression. Why not? In a very like expatty way. Sorry, I feel like I got a hair in my eye. Can you see it? In an expat way, I do struggle sometimes with the size of homes. Now, normally it doesn't really matter, and normally I wouldn't really think about it. But here in England, I feel like you need to be a millionaire to have a home with a dedicated guest bedroom. I feel like it just doesn't happen. The homes are just not really big enough, and you need to use all the space that you have available. Where back home in Ontario, I don't think it is completely unreasonable to have a guest bedroom. You don't have to be a millionaire or rich, to have a dedicated guest bedroom just kind of in your house. Not everybody has it, of course, but I just feel like it's much more accessible. Now, normally, this doesn't really matter, but when you are a foreigner and you want your family to come visit, it makes it really difficult. So I have been planning, my mom is coming to England, yay, around Christmas time, yay. So I've been very busy planning all of that stuff, but we don't have a guest bedroom. So we've had to buy a giant blow up mattress. We have to move things out of one of the rooms to make a makeshift room. But then, I've got my mom sleeping on a blow up mattress. That's not really ideal. And if I wanted my sisters to come at the same time, I couldn't have two people at once. It needs to be one person at a time. Anyway, as a foreigner, it just makes things a little bit more difficult. And I honestly never really thought about it before. Because in your day-to-day life, it doesn't really matter. Another thing that I really love about my life here is that, now bear with me if this doesn't make sense, there is such a definitive British identity and a British culture. And while that might be different person to person, it's this really definitive thing. And of course, Canadians have Canadian culture, of course, and what it means to be Canadian is different to every person. But I think where we are somewhat new in that respect, here in the UK, there is such a long history of what it means to be British, British food, British language, and the way that you speak different accents, the amount of slang, there's just such a British identity that I really love. Another thing I hate about my life here in England is that I carry around guilt. Yeah, still after 7 years, I carry around a lot of guilt that I have chosen to live here away from my family and friends and everything I've ever known. And I, still feel guilty about it, and I probably always will. And so, I can post fun, chill, maybe just easy watching, easy viewing YouTube videos about my life here and how great it is, and I love England and all this fun stuff. Always have a level of guilt, always. It just doesn't go away. I feel it constantly, and it's something I think as a foreigner or as an expat, you have to make your peace with it. So yes, I've had incredible experiences here, but I will always have guilt. Yay! Nobody ever tells you about that, do they? And I think as well, I never thought that England can feel like home. But it really does. Recently, I went on vacation to Croatia. Yay, had a lovely time. But honestly, by the end of it, I was ready to come home to England, to my life here, to my home, to my bed, to my routine, to my favorite coffee shop, to my favorite gym, to my favorite grocery store, to my favorite hikes and walks, and to my life here. And that is a really weird thing when you dissect it, you really think about it. It's this place once felt so scary and terrifying and overwhelming, and I genuinely hated it. And yet, with enough time and with enough effort and perseverance and being just quite a bit stubborn, this place is now home. And that concept just in and of itself boggles my mind. So what's my honest opinion about living in England? It has been an absolute adventure. It has been good. It has been bad. It has been exciting. It has been boring. It has been the single greatest decision that I have ever made, even though parts of it I have absolutely hated. And it's kind of wild how that works out. A lot of stuff has happened in the last 7 years. I have aged. Can you believe it? 7 years worth. I have aged. I've been on YouTube. I've been posting my journey. I really appreciate everyone who has joined in on this adventure with me for the good and the bad. It's just been life-changing and just wild. And sometimes it's boring. The rest of the day today, I have work that I need to do, and I need to answer emails, and I need to do the laundry, and I need to vacuum. So yeah, life, it's life, right? And I'm so deeply grateful. And I am truly grateful to 7 year ago Alanna, who decided to stick through it through sheer stubbornness and determination. She did not want to look like she lost to England. And I am so grateful that she stuck around because I went through all of that and I persevered. We're here. And I am so privileged and I am so grateful. It's kind of wild how much I have changed over the last 7 years, not only just from like getting older, but also just being in and around British culture and how I have like soaked up certain elements of British culture. It's pretty crazy. If you want to see one of the ways that I've changed, check out this video where I talk about British phrases that I can't stop saying. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!